Dedan Kimathi was born in a small village in Nyeri, Kenya in 1920. He grew up at a time when the British colonial rule was oppressing the native people, especially the Kikuyu tribe to which he belonged. He witnessed how the British took away the land, the livestock, and the dignity of his people. He also saw how some of his fellow Kikuyu collaborated with the British, betraying their own culture and identity. Kimathi was a bright and rebellious young man who had a passion for writing and poetry. He attended several schools, but he always clashed with the authorities who tried to impose their values and discipline on him. He also joined the Kenya African Union, a political party that advocated for the rights of the Africans, but he soon realized that the peaceful protests and petitions were not enough to challenge the colonial system. He became involved in the Mau Mau movement, a secret organization that swore to fight for the land and freedom of Kenya. He took an oath to dedicate his life to the cause, and he became a leader of the foremost fighters who waged a guerrilla war against the British forces and their loyalist allies. Kimathi was a charismatic and courageous commander who inspired his followers with his speeches and writings. He also had a spiritual dimension, as he believed that he was guided by God and the spirits of his ancestors. The Mau Mau Rebellion lasted from 1952 to 1960, and it was a brutal and bloody conflict that claimed thousands of lives on both sides. The British responded with a fierce crackdown, declaring a state of emergency, imposing curfews and restrictions, arresting and torturing suspects, and burning villages and crops. They also recruited and armed the Kikuyu Home Guard, a militia that fought against the Mau Mau and committed atrocities against their own people. Kimathi and his fighters faced many hardships and challenges, as they had to survive in the harsh conditions of the forest, evade the enemy patrols and ambushes, and deal with the internal divisions and betrayals within the Mau Mau ranks. Kimathi was also hunted by a special unit of the British Army, led by Ian Henderson, a ruthless and cunning officer who was determined to capture him, alive or dead. Kimathi's fate was sealed on October 21, 1956, when he was shot and captured by a tribal police constable who had been tipped off by a traitor. He was taken to a court in Nyeri, where he was tried and sentenced to death for possessing a firearm and ammunition. Kimathi refused to plead for mercy, and he maintained his dignity and defiance until the end. He was hanged at Kimathi prison on February 18, 1957, and his body was buried in an unknown grave. Kimathi's death marked the end of the Mau Mau Rebellion, as most of the remaining fighters either surrendered or were killed. The British claimed victory, but they also realized that they could not hold on to Kenya much longer. The rebellion had awakened the nationalist sentiment among the Kenyans, and it had exposed the injustices and atrocities of the colonial regime. In 1963, Kenya finally achieved its independence, and Kimathi was recognized as a national hero and a martyr for the freedom struggle. A statue of Kimathi was erected in Nairobi in 2007 as a symbol of resistance and liberation.